Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, June 22nd, and this is your end of day recap. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through here is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. This video is for education purposes only. If the screen is a little bit blurry, it's because YouTube has not rendered the high definition video, so just give it a little bit of time and that should take care of itself. Theme of the day, another growth rally day, but there was also some good participation in some other areas, particularly a couple stocks that I was in today too. I thought really, if you look at some sector performance, two areas that, well, I guess maybe three areas that had some momentum to them today was I like the movement that happened in retail today. So if you kind of look across XRT, which is the retail ETF, that outperformed. That was up 1.9%. The consumer discretionary ETF was also broke above value. That's the first time that this has been above value all month. Remember, this is very heavily weighted Amazon and Tesla, but there's also some other interesting names in here too. So that was a good theme of the day. And then of course the FANG stocks were very strong today too. FDN, which is the internet ETF, is close to a breakout. And then there's another sector too that I'm just well, I guess it's a combination of some things, but IGV software continues to be strong. That's right at 52-week highs, very close, depending on what name you're looking at in that group. Many of which have already broken out to new highs, and solar was a bit strong today, and then the medical devices, which remains one of my favorite groups right now. Really getting closer to that VPOC that we talked about. That's version point of control target that we talked about in the weekend video, as this was one of my favorite names. All right, so that's kind of where some of the themes were for today, and if you look at the performance before I get to the performance in individual names, you had the Qs outperform today. They were up 90 basis points. And just overall, a nice trending day because we started the day and we were kind of flat, mostly, right around the open. And, this was another session where the overnight session really was very quiet. So SPYs ended up 0.5%. So, they were even, I think, a little bit red for part of the session, or just basically flat. So they came alive, and the small caps ended up today. So you could look on the bottom left of your screen. The breadth wasn't like super strong today, but sometimes you can't get basically everything in terms of what you're looking for the day. Whoops, let me bring up market breadth. Right, so you could see, for example, advancing versus declining names. You had 16 declining names in the Dow, 13 advancing names. In the S&P, you could see you did have more advancing names. 11 4-week new highs and only one new low, so that's a good stat as well. And again, Nasdaq, it was kind of you actually had a little bit of negative breadth. Remember, that's has a lot of small caps in it too. So again, not the strongest, not as nearly as strong as breadth as we had yesterday, but I don't think you can really expect to get that every day. A couple names, we'll just kind of go through some charts here. We'll try to make this a little bit of a quicker video because I think yesterday's video was about 30 minutes. But, a lot of constructive things going on. A name that I had talked about the last couple days, Costco, broke out to new highs today. So this was really lovely. I was looking for this, and I actually pre-positioned a little bit in here into some July calls, and then I rolled the calls into August calls. So I do that from time to time, right? Sometimes I'll pre-position before you get the signal, because sometimes the signals happen and they're so fast. And then what I did is I took my profits and rolled some of that into August calls. It's a $390 stock, so that is why I'm playing options in this one. It's a big capital commitment for this. And again, we have no resistance up here. So I know a lot of traders sometimes, just really quickly, I'll go over this, but a lot of traders are like, well, where's the resistance in this thing? What do I do? Right? Well, actually, it's much cleaner when you have a breakout, right? You don't have to worry about overhead supply, right? Previous sellers coming in. and you can kind of just use a trailing stop at this point. Now we have some extensions away from, from the value area for the month, but this is really nice. Another name that caught today, which wasn't on my radar, which was Big Lots. Saw some calls today too. We'll see if this one follows, but whenever I have a choice, I always go to best in breed, right? I always try to stick with the quality names. I view Costco as a quality name in the group. Also sticking with the retail group, a couple other names. Deckers saw this huge trade that went up. Right, if we bring up our option flow from today, you could look in Cheddar Flow, you could look in Trade Alert. I use them both, but just 378 contracts, but look, going out to like almost the at the money calls going out to December. So apparently somebody really likes Deckers, and I could tell you, or at least from what I see on the screen, it's a pretty nice looking chart, right? You could see that this closed right at the breakout level, and it has been going sideways for the last 3-4 months. So I think this thing's ripe for a breakout. I like the chart here. I like Deckers. So good name to kind of watch for tomorrow. We could go through some, if you look at some of the FANG stocks, as I mentioned, they were strong today. Google looks like it's very close to a breakout. Facebook, the same thing. Amazon kind of got stalled a little bit right at the highs. We're at a very interesting level. I talked about this in one of the videos last week. Like if you look at the chart for Amazon, this is on the weekly chart, right? So I'm looking ahead. I know this is a developing weekly bar, but we're very close to a breakout here. So I could turn the labels on here just so that you could see exactly what I'm referring to here. Let me just turn labels on our MarketWebs indicator. But again, and I'll put, sorry about that. I'll put the market profile on again so you can see where we're deriving the value areas from this. And, so this is the value area from last year. This is the market profile from last year, and that gives us a value area that's really good support and resistance. So what I'm looking for is a breakout of 35.17. So again, a little bit of deja vu all over again because we talked about this last week, and we touched it, right? We also touched it here, back in April. So we're at a really interesting level here for Amazon, and that's going to be definitely something to watch. All right, a few other areas. Oh, this is the one area that I was thinking of that I couldn't remember. All the payment names, right? So MasterCard was a name that I played yesterday, and this is breaking out again. One of my favorite things that I see, looking at the charts and technicals, of course using our MarketWebs here, but looking at things that have been consolidating for a while and a break above consolidation, right? So basically the whole month and even last month. This MasterCard was moving down. I think people are spending. You could, anytime you go out, I'm in New York City, it's packed here, right? People are out. Trying to get a reservation is impossible, right, these days. So, people are doing things. I put a chart out on Twitter last night of Visa. Visa had some follow through. If you want to look at PayPal too, PayPal is acting right. I think PayPal gets to, this was a chart that we talked about last week too, but upside target maybe 293 in PayPal. I structured a little bit of a trade in Square today, which again, these names are, they're not exactly like, overbought or anything like that. I think that there's a trade here, and I'm targeting 250. And I chose a call spread for this one, and I think that's a nice way to participate in trades, right? If you're looking for things, if you think that you've had a couple good days or something like since the beginning of this week, one way that you can kind of put some skin in the game where you're not risking a ton of money and doing it via options, is call spreads. So here's kind of what I do with some things here. But that was a trade I structured at the end of the day. 237, 247 call spread. Just going out to not this week, but next week. Cintas was a big name too for me. This was a name that I put on last week. Had to sit through a little bit of pain once I put this trade on. I think I put the trade on the first break of value. And look at this thing go today, up 3% today. That's a big move for Cintas. Again, kind of you see the theme that I'm talking about here, right? A lot of sideways consolidation and a break higher. So I took a couple targets in this one. We don't normally see a up 3% move in Cintas. So pretty stellar move. Again, like the chart, staying long here. Almost hit. I was trying to get 375. I took a target at 374, which I think was good enough. I mentioned the medical device group. I still like this INMD. I actually added a trade into this. All right, there you go. So almost out to new highs in INMD. Again, consolidating nicely, not as long as the consolidation some of those names that I've already mentioned, but I think looks pretty darn good for a possible move higher. What else did I want to cover? Just a few other names that saw option activity. Another software name, SDGR. This is Schrodinger. Saw some calls. There's a VPOC up here about 79. That name got going a little bit. Just a couple of my other trades here. Again, like I said, a lot of option activity. Costco, Twitter. Forgot about Twitter. Was able to take a couple targets. This has now almost filled the earnings gap, right? My ultimate target in this is 66, but it's been grinding higher. We've certainly seen a lot of option positioning in that name over the last couple weeks. Futu, right? I like this setup here in Futu, right? If you look at again, it's not exactly the same consolidation, but this is a name that topped out at 204. Has been going back and forth, and it's leaning higher here, right? In Futu, that's another one that the options are not cheap. I decided to structure a call spread for that trade. Another one, I keep looking at the industrial space. Deere finally kind of turned the corner a little bit, right? That was a name that you've heard me talk about. If you want a short-term level to trade against, that's right around 339, making a move out of value. Maybe this thing further retraces, maybe 347 is where this thing gets to. Boeing saw all kinds of weird July options going up. Not really sure what's going on there. Big premium that just going up to July. It's not a bad spot. It's just, for me, Boeing has been a little bit of an underperformer. But you got some support to trade against, 236. So I just thought I'd mention that one. I try to mention a couple that maybe not ones that I'm favoring, but that saw option activity for the day. All right, and what else? Run, it's a name I've been watching. I don't have any exposure on the solar right now, so I like this little digestion here, and I'm looking for a target up at 56. And, this is basically, if you're new to, if you haven't really seen these videos before, if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, whenever I see option activity, this is kind of how the day rolls on for us. I look to basically read the tape. Of course, I do a lot of my setups and a lot of my homework after the market closes when things, are closed so that you have the, the full end of day. Because really what you want to see, that the most important print, is the end of day. This is Orly. Ulta was another name that kind of looks interesting here. Didn't close on the highs, but the closing print, you have all the information. So it's better, in my opinion, to do a good chunk of homework while the market is closed. But, we're also, during the day, I'm reading tape, I'm managing trades. Coupa Software continues to act well. All right, we talked about Futu. QFin is another name that's trying to push the highs. Etsy is another name that I sent out last night. Talk about consolidation there. So it got to the first level target, and this is the earnings gap, which it may be trying to fill here. But, it took out a 1 hour VPOC. Right, so we'll see what this thing does right around this 178, 179 level. If it can overcome that, you might see a nice move ahead of it for Etsy. But first things first, that was the level. That was the level that we were talking about in terms of to target. All right, guys. So that is it for today's video. Again, like I said, I'll try to keep this video short, but overall, real nice trading day. A lot of opportunities. I didn't even get to talk about CrowdStrike, which is a name that I've been holding in the TTG Trend Portfolio for a while. Notice this thing out to new highs. Really nice aggressive price target by, I think it was Stiefel. I think it was a $300 price target, but I see a lot of people have been talking about names not making new highs. Well, there you have it. There's a very quality name that's out there, CrowdStrike, out to new highs. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.